Hey guys, Emmanuel here, and before I jump into the video, I just want to ask you guys to give me the HBO special, and that is the help a brother out by hitting the subscribe button and leaving a like under this video. It helps me out a lot. I'm going to give you guys a few seconds to do that. Alright, now that's over, guys, the NBA 2k23 ratings just came out. And even though this channel is strictly for the NBA, the league, instead of the game, I really wanted to talk about the ratings because the NBA does not have an official ranking or rating for players, and something like that would be so good for, me, a commentator. But the closest thing we have to that is 2K. 2K is an affiliate of the NBA, and thus their ranking is kind of the semi-official ranking, right? And NBA 2k23 comes out on Friday, and they had some disgusting and trash ratings that I just came across while scrolling on Twitter, and I just thought I had to talk about this. First of all, if you haven't seen the ratings yet, this is how it goes. These are the top players on the list. Number one on the list is Giannis Antetokounmpo, who has an overall rating of 97. And that does not surprise me at all, because earlier this year, I conceded that Giannis Antetokounmpo was the best player in the world after I previously thought that it might have been LeBron or Kevin Durant. I had to concede that Giannis was the best player in the world strictly because of just how good he played last year. And I know they got bounced out in the playoffs last year, but even then, his team almost beat the Boston Celtics team that completely made easy work of Kevin Durant's Brooklyn Nets, right? So I'm not surprised that he is the number one player on this list, and LeBron's not, because, well, LeBron's just aging, right? LeBron's not bad, like, he's not a terrible player, he's still a really elite player, but it's just that Giannis has youth on his side, right? And that just kind of gives him the edge over LeBron. The number two spot for highest ranked is a tie between like 5 guys, right? LeBron James, Kevin Durant, Joel Embiid, Stephen Curry, Nikola Jokic, all are tied for the number 2 spot, and they are ranked at 96 overall. And I have a problem with that. Of course I do. My problem is this. There is no way that a guy like Kevin Durant, who got swept in the first round of the playoffs last year, is the same ranking as Stephen Curry, who is coming off of winning Finals MVP and silencing the doubters. Every single doubt that everybody had about Stephen Curry was silenced in the playoffs against the Boston Celtics. He proved he didn't need Kevin Durant. He proved last year he was the best shooter of all time when he broke that record. He performed and rose to the challenge at the TD Garden in Game 5 when the Boston Celtics needed to win a game. He completely squashed their hopes and then brought it home to win it on his own floor. So all of his accolades that he did last season, compared to Kevin Durant, who got swept, they should not be the same ranking. And I understand, they're different players and it's measured off of different metrics, but still, did you see how good Stephen Curry was last year? To me, there's no way that Kevin Durant should be, ranked the same as Stephen Curry or LeBron James or Luca Doncic, because even those other guys, LeBron James last year, even though he's old, was vying for the scoring champion, and had his team been slightly good, he could have been in the MVP conversation. Joel Embiid and Nikola Jokic were the top 2 guys for the MVP. So it makes sense that they're tied for 96. But Kevin Durant, it makes no sense to me, right? In my opinion, I think Kevin Durant should be ranked a 94. I think that's a fair judgment, a fair assessment of him as a player and exactly the type of season that he had. What 2K does is they evaluate the season that you had, right? You can be a very incredible player, but if you had a terrible season, that's going to reflect in your rankings, right? And a 94 kind of reflects exactly the type of player that Kevin Durant is. Highly talented, didn't have a very good season. And so I think that's very fair for him. And even Kevin Durant talked about this when he said on Twitter, he added Ronnie 2K and he said, "Why aren't I a 99 overall?" It kind of made me chuckle a little bit. Like, what are you talking about, Kevin? you can't be a 99 overall because the guy who gets swept in the playoffs, the first round of the playoffs, the easiest level, mind you, doesn't get the privilege of being the highest ranked guy in the video game. It just doesn't make any sense. And I think it really hasn't sunk in for Kevin Durant yet that, dude, you got swept in the first round with another all-star by your side, right? It's just kind of like, Kevin, like, do you know what that looks like? Do you know what that does to your legacy? And I don't think Kevin Durant's the type of guy to do some introspective work and look inward and think, wow, that really happened to me. So it just kind of made me laugh that he would think he would be, even close to 97 or 90. It just made no sense to me. The third highest ranking on the list is Luca Dante, who has a ranking of 95 overall. And I think that's very fair for Luca Doncic, especially after what he did last year in the playoffs. I watched his performance against the Suns. Magnificent. They had no answer for Luca, right? Nobody on their team could guard him. They couldn't answer him. They didn't have an answer for the amount of scoring, the volume of scoring that he does. It's just, I think 95 is perfect for Luka Doncic right there. It's a fair judgment. Good on 2K for getting that right. After Luka is Kawhi Leonard, who is the fourth highest ranking in the game, who is ranked a 94 overall. And after him is Jayson Tatum. Now, I have a problem with these two, right? It makes no sense to me that Kawhi Leonard, a guy who barely played basketball last year, he barely played half the season last year, is ranked higher than the guy who outperformed Kevin Durant in the playoffs last year and went to the finals, Jayson Tatum. There's no way, to me, Kawhi Leonard should be higher than Jayson Tatum because Jayson Tatum was better than Kevin Durant last year. And that was reflected this year in the offseason when the Boston Celtics had a chance to straight up just trade Kevin Durant for Jayson Tatum. And they did not because it didn't make any sense. At this point in his career, it doesn't make any sense to trade Jayson Tatum for Kevin Durant. He just has a better upside. He just completely outperformed Kevin Durant last year in the playoffs. So to rank Kawhi Leonard higher than Jayson Tatum made no sense to me. It's another trash ranking by NBA 2K. And then finally, the ranking that just had my jaw on the floor, I was surprised when I saw it, was Ja Morant. Ja Morant is ranked a 93 overall in this game, and I think that's just way too high, right? Why? Because I think what happened to Ja Morant last year was this. Every year, the media kind of chooses a darling that they just kind of gush over, right? One year it's Zion, right? Then they drop Zion. Then the next is LaMelo Ball. And I think last year was Ja Morant. I think it was Ja Morant last year because Ja Morant's team was really good last year. They were the number 2 seed in the Western Conference last year. And Ja Morant was the face of that team. And they kind of just attributed that to him. But the thing is, the Memphis Grizzlies were really, really good last year. I think they blew out the Warriors in the playoffs one game last year without Ja Morant. They were really good. But because Ja Morant was the face of that team, they kind of attributed that to him being uber good. It was so bad that there was a point last year when the Memphis Grizzlies were playing the Warriors where the media kind of wanted to prop up Ja Morant as kind of like Steph's rival or taking Steph's throne. I'm like, Ja Morant is not the player that Steph is. Ja Morant is good. Don't get me wrong. Ja Morant's good, but Ja Morant's nowhere near Stephen Curry. It was a moment of just being wowed by Ja Morant, right? And it's easy to get mesmerized by him. He's high flying. He's got a strong personality. It's everything the media loves. It's everything that makes him marketable to the media. I don't think Ja Morant is a 93 caliber of a player. No. I think a fair assessment of Ja Morant is Ja Morant should be a 91 because to me, him and Devin Booker are almost on the same level. He's a little bit, tiny bit. He had a little bit better season and was a little bit better than Devin Booker last year. I think he should be a 91, while Devin Booker should just be one peg under him as a 90. I think that's a fair assessment of those guys. Ja Morant is not the same as Jayson Tatum. I don't think he's that good, right? So there was another trash rating that NBA did. But yeah, those are my issues with, those ratings. And even still, outside of the top 10 spots, there were still some iffy, weird rankings. You're like, what? For example, DeMar DeRozan, I think he was ranked 89. He should be a 90. There was a period of time where DeMar DeRozan was in a running spot for MVP. He should be in the 90s. But yeah, guys, those are just my rankings. If you like this kind of content, then this is a channel for you. Again, give me the HBO special. Help me out by subscribing and hitting the like button. And thanks for tuning in. And until next time, kids.